Do you think, as somebody who is in education and academia, that we really need to have a fair and honest conversation about colonization in schools? And how early on would you suggest that we have this kind of conversation?
I absolutely think we do need to have a conversation in schools because, as you pointed out, you were exposed to the colonial history of Britain and its impact at A level because you chose that, right? Mm. So only if you choose certain subjects, and also you were, as you say, you were lucky that your teachers chose a syllabus that included that element. Other teachers might decide to focus on a different aspect of history and then therefore never, discuss colonization. So I do think we need to discuss colonization, Britain's colonial history, across the world, what that involved, what was the impact on the colonial subjects there, but also what was the impact back home in Britain as well, in terms of trade, in terms of people's lives, in terms of attitudes and so on. So it's not just what happened there. We want to understand what happened here at that time and how that shapes our contemporary society. So I think that those conversations really need to start around 14, 15 when students are still having to take subjects that they don't have a choice in, that they there's a certain, range that they still have to study until they make their own GCSE choices, So I do think we need to start much earlier, but then build it in across the whole education system. But, so in social sciences and in history, there's a big conversation about decolonizing the curriculum now, and, it's very early stages. We're all trying to figure out what that means. What does decolonizing the curriculum mean even? How are we going to implement it? But also, it will still only impact once we revamp the curriculum. It will only impact those students who choose social sciences or history or languages and so on. If you're, there's the conversation in science has not happened yet, There are little snippets of it, but it really hasn't happened yet. So if you're in sciences or the natural sciences and so on, then you won't come across it. You won't be exposed to that, So that's why I think it really needs to start early on, to start exposing every young person in this country to that history. And then, of course, there's the option to go deeper into it. But that's the only way I think we can change the conversations around, all these immigrants coming over, just coming over and taking over. That really is the conversation. What led to Brexit was a concern that there was this free flow movement because we were part of the EU, and certain migrants from certain countries were coming over to take advantage of our welfare system, not to work really, and that whole momentum led to Brexit. And now we're realizing that we can't do without immigrants. Who's going to do certain jobs? Who's going to do the care work, the social care work? There's such a shortage of carers in care homes and nursing homes and so on. There's shortage in the NHS as well. We don't have enough people going into those occupations. So we are going to need immigrants, and they were coming from Europe. We've stopped that flow. Maybe the government will decide that certain groups can come in from Europe, but we are going to now look much further afield, and, from India, from Africa, from other parts of the world, So it doesn't, how is that going to change the equation here? White people are not going to be able to protect their culture and their country and in a way they thought they would because of Brexit. So this is all wrapped up with that colonial history, understanding that we are not, in many ways, picking up on Jain values, that we are not an individual, we're not an individual atom. We're always related, we're part of a web. And as a country, part of a global web, or we are part of webs of relationships. We can't function on our own. Nobody can function as a country or as an individual. So
that's a really wonderful way to move the conversation towards Jain values. But just before we do that, the irony for me about Brexit is that most people voted, so white people from Europe will stop coming into this country. But what we're going to end up having is Indians and Africans coming into this country, which is even more like opposed to what they didn't want in the first place. People like Nigel Farage and all these people were stirring up this narrative. And it just shows that what I found during that time and during this time, with Trump being elected and Brexit happening, is the devaluing of truth, and I feel like subjective narratives became more prominent than objective narratives, and fact checking went out the window, and people were allowed to say what they wanted to say on national TV, and no one was stopping anyone from actually saying you're wrong. Like this is, and they kept inviting these people on, because now we've moved to a world of views and clicks and essentially money. So maybe the power lies in money there rather than actually truth.